Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones was directed by George Lucas, and it stars Hayden Christensen, Natalie Portman, Ewan McGregor, Tamora Morrison, and Christopher Lee. So it's maybe been about a year since I've talked about a Star Wars movie on this channel, and so I decided to revive this series by talking about possibly my least favorite Star Wars movie. So I haven't watched this film since 2014, and that was when I decided to rewatch all the original 6 Star Wars movies in one big marathon. And honestly, I just haven't had any rhyme or reason to revisit Attack of the Clones since then. And I decided to rewatch this film for the purposes of this review, and funny enough, my opinions just haven't really changed. This film has a lot of the same issues for me as The Phantom Menace. In fact, I actually prefer Phantom Menace over Attack of the Clones, and there's only really one reason for that, and that is the kick-ass Darth Maul fight at the end of that film. This film just doesn't have that. You know, it has all the same issues that Phantom Menace has, but, you know, just without the kick-ass lightsaber fight. And also, this review will contain spoilers for Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones. So if you've never seen this film and you want to avoid any and all spoilers, I would highly recommend skipping to this timestamp so you can receive my spoiler-free thoughts and my final grade on this film. So this film opens up with Padme's decoy getting killed during an assassination attempt on Padme. So our main villain, Count Dooku, wants to assassinate Padme. So he has Jango Fett do the dirty work for him. Makes sense, I guess. But for some reason, Jango Fett doesn't want to do it. So he decides to hire a bounty hunter. But the bounty hunter doesn't want to do it either. So she decides to send a robot. But the robot doesn't want to do it either, so it decides to send bugs. What? This film really likes to overcomplicate simple things, and this is one of the main reasons why this film just drags for me. Just throughout this film, I'm constantly checking my watch, just waiting for it to end, and that's not a normal feeling for a Star Wars movie. There's also this pretty bad chase scene with really dated CGI. Like, absolutely nothing in this environment feels tangible or real. Honestly, it looks like a PS3 game. Though there is this really funny exchange between Obi-Wan and some guy dealing death sticks. Even though I have a lot of issues with the prequel trilogy, one of my favorite aspects of this trilogy is Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi. He is honestly what I would imagine a young Obi-Wan would act and look like. His transition between his Obi-Wan and Sir Alec Guinness's Obi-Wan just feels so seamless. You know, half the time I can't even tell that these are two different performances. It honestly just feels like the natural evolution of this character. So the Jedi feels that it's best to place Padme under the protection of a Jedi. Anakin is given the responsibility to place Padme under his protection. And these two develop a bit of a romance, but this is easily the most uncomfortable aspect of this film. The dialogue these two share is so incredibly uncomfortable and just creepy, honestly. The lines that Anakin is given just feels so incredibly predatory.
Sorry, milady.
Dude, seriously, stop. Okay, so I don't hate the aspect that Jedi aren't allowed to feel attachment or love, because it adds an interesting amount of conflict here, but it's unfortunate they don't really do much with this. Like, they kind of just brush it away, when I feel like that the idea of Anakin slowly breaking the rules of the Jedi Code and being tempted by the dark side is something that they really should have explored more here. Though the cringy and awkward lines of dialogue in this film have brought us some glorious memes.
I don't like sand. It's coarse and
Rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere.
Though there is actually one really good scene in this film, and that is, of course, where Anakin goes to rescue his mother, but unfortunately he is too late, and she dies in his arms. This scene is actually really well acted, and it shows that Hayden Christensen actually isn't a terrible actor after all. I mean, it's just unfortunate that he's just given terrible lines to work with. Finally, we get to see Anakin dabble towards the dark side and begin his path as Darth Vader. Well, sort of. We maybe see about 5 seconds of it. You know, honestly, I wish we saw much more of this carnage, rather than Anakin telling us about it, in possibly the worst acted scene in the entire Star Wars saga. Also, Obi-Wan goes on this little side quest where we meet Jango Fett and his clones. This scene is just a big exposition dump, and honestly, there just isn't much to say about this scene, other than the laugh out loud jump kick that Obi-Wan does. So in the third act, we enter the big Jedi arena fight scene, and it's a bit much for me. There's just so much happening, so much madness happening here, that my brain just feels so detached from all that is happening. I much prefer a more personal lightsaber fight, like the ones in Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. So Anakin and Obi-Wan go to pursue Dooku, and what ensues is possibly the worst lightsaber fight in all of Star Wars. It just feels so oddly choreographed, and there's this really weird section where the lights come off and they just pointlessly swing their lightsabers around, and this is communicated in these really awkward close-ups. One part that has really bothered me for a long time is when Anakin gets his arm severed, but he just groans like he stepped on a Lego brick or got shot by a paintball gun or something. Okay, let's talk about Yoda having a lightsaber. I don't hate the fact that Yoda has a lightsaber. I know the internet has nitpicked this scene to death, and I really don't have much to say that hasn't already been said before, but I know I sound like a broken record here, but I feel so weirdly detached from this scene. It's probably CGI Yoda flipping around, though. So we end this film with Padme and Anakin getting married, and I breathe a sigh of relief that this film is actually over. This film is just so bland and wooden that I'm honestly having trouble finding words to describe it. It's kind of like the Thor 2 of the Star Wars saga. Overall, Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, gets a D+. So I didn't really know where to include this in my review, so I'm just going to kind of have this as a bit of an afterthought. John Williams, as always, knocks it out of the park with his score in this film. Across the Stars is freaking beautiful. Honestly, his score in this film is so good that it really doesn't deserve to be in a film of this quality. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed my review of Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. And if you did, make sure to give this video a like. And if you want more content like this, hit the subscribe button and ring the bell notification so you can be notified every time I upload a new video. And shout out to Michael Rosen and Max Park. Thanks for watching.